Welcome to the CEN show, the platform where we learn from the world community. One of your hosts this evening, Rashaki Maskani, and I will turn it over to our other host in a second here. But I want to introduce the panel. We have Sister Lynda Shorter, Brother Ahid, Brother Mshinda, Ernest McBride Jr., and Professor Amin Rahh. And our other host for this evening is Sister Sophia. Sister Sophia, thank you for always getting this good brother we have this evening that you're going to introduce. And I'm turning it over to you. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's quite an honor to be on this incredible network and to have such an incredible host always who's like a maverick in our generation and beyond. So with Dr. Enqi, with so many amazing books, groundbreaking books on Amazon with Dr. Enqi Real, and it's just the type of scientific information that he puts out based on not only modern science but also ancient science is just priceless. And wow. So without further ado, welcome, Dr. Enqi. It's quite an honor to have you here.
All right, it was always an honor to be here, always an honor to be in the building. Um, yeah, so tonight I guess we are having the self-love conversation. And it stems from a topic in one of our last books. Um, and the book is on love, but not necessarily in the traditional type of conversation. With a love book, you would expect like relationship, this or that or the other. This book is more on the quantum science of love, you know, um, the going beyond the chemistry, going into love as a wave function, and then from that space, just being able to look at the effects and the impacts and some of the more traditional aspects that we would associate with a self-love conversation, like I mean, you could kind of sum up some of those things into you can't love or take care of anybody else until you can love or take care of yourself. So that's a central theme, but we really go hardcore into the science. I think for our discussion, though, starting the new year off, I think the self-love conversation, we kind of already started it. I feel like we kind of already started it. Everybody, discussing the fast that they're on. Right now, I'm on a fast. One of the brothers, and as a founder of the 40-day fruit fast, it was it was religious for us at one point in time. When January started, like that was it. We would normally fast straight through from Thanksgiving all the way up through New Year's Day to give everybody a running start and to try to fight, the Death Valley. And Death Valley being the holiday season because metabolic illness is at its peak when the vitamin D levels are at their lowest. So those two things, um, and then not only that, you have the combination of, the going through the vitamin D decline with everybody eating, you know, buffet style candy, you know, just the worst that they can eat. That's the time where we eat our worst. Um, a lot of recreational drug use goes up through the roof. Alcohol consumption goes up through the roof. And then at the same time, the activity of bacteria and viruses also go up through the roof. So between October and January is a window when a lot of people transition. So, we made it like probably maybe a little over a decade where we definitely fasted and we put our best foot forward. We kind of got a little lackadaisical. Um, I won't even say lackadaisical, but I wound up fasting throughout the year, running so many different fasts and this, that, and the other throughout the year that the end of the year fast kind of lost its luster. It lost the significance. So it wasn't something to specifically focus on because for one reason or another, people were, but over time, I created something. Is the water ready? Oh, okay. Um, but over time, I would do these little things. And one of my good brothers from Philadelphia, he was joking around, what we would call today trolling, right? But what he said stuck with me. And so I released a book, and in the book I talk about, this thing that he kind of named inadvertently, but from time to time I go through periods where I won't even know where my phones are. So I'm not on the phone, no social media, and it might just be a day. It might be a day, it might be 2 days, it might be a weekend, where no phone, no TV, no social media, it'll just be me and maybe some books, or maybe not even books. I may just want to sit with my own thoughts. And one day, and this is way before COVID, one day I'm on the phone, my brother's asking me, yo, I was trying to get in touch with you. Where was you at? Like, man, I was going to voicemail. What you was doing? Woo, woo. And I was like, oh, you know how I get locked in. You know what I'm saying? Because he's one of my guys. So he knows when I get, he was like, oh, you back doing your urban monk thing again. And so we wound up laughing, but then the urban monk thing is stuck with me. So that way I would have a way to explain to my friends and family, because sometimes people think I'm ghosting them, like I'm just not answering their calls or whatever the case may be, but I'll be doing, my monk thing. And yeah, so it was it was a name for me to be able to put, a title on this little process of mine. And it includes, maybe some dietary changes, or I might be doing something with some herbs or some greens or whatever the case may be. But largely it is about fasting. And it's not until very recently that I actually put it into a book to try to describe it and share it with other folks. And one of my brothers this weekend, he asked me to join in with him, and so we went on a couple-day fast. I don't know how long I'm gonna do it. Right, I'm about ready to break fast now. We've been on it for 3 days. I'm about ready to have me a little something, salad, sandwich, snack time, something got it. But but in it, I talk about the and it's also a part of the self-love discussion, but I talk about the difference traditionally between a cleanse and a fast, right? So with this being January, that may be a good discussion to have, because over the years, especially as the commercial interests have got more involved with fasting, um, fasting has degenerated into, something that's more physical, more visceral than what the actual intention of a fast is. So, and a lot of people don't know what a fast is. So when you talk to them about fast, usually they start describing they poop. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, yeah, I had some amazing bowel movements. Yeah, I had floating poop. I had beige poop. I had this. And so immediately I know, oh, okay, I got it. They're confused. So typically a cleanse, and really it's the same process. It's the same process, but the point of view is different. The point of focus, the goal is usually different. So a cleanse is usually focused on the physical body, right? Whether it's health, whether it's your digestive system, whatever the case may be. A fast is usually supposed to be focused on the mind, spirit, emotions, etc. So before the last few decades, most of our text, most of our writings about fasting came from theological documents, whether it was swamis, gurus, the Bible, messiahs, prophets. Fasting was usually associated with religious texts. And so, we kind of grabbed a hold of it because people realized they could monetize the idea of longevity and some of the benefits associated with fasting. And so people started doing fast commercially, divorced from the other aspects. But now with the rise of social media and the grip that social media has on people, especially since TV is gone, the need to kind of elaborate on, the original intent and purpose of fasting again is becoming, more apropos because people need to spend time off of social media. People need to spend time without other people's thoughts in their mind. People need to spend time in solitude. Um, there's a lot of other things that we need to work on. Our emotional health, our mental health, in many ways can overshadow our physical health. Sometimes our physical health is suffering because our emotional or our mental health is suffering, even if it's a matter of just willpower, right? We may have something going on, high blood pressure, diabetes, something simple that we can make some adjustments for that we're unwilling to begin those processes. We're unwilling to go without. We're unwilling to make changes, even if we understand how beneficial they could be, because our heart, our heart's not in the right place, pun intended. Our mind is not right. So there's a wide variety of benefits that people can get from fasting, especially not just in the grip of, addiction to electronics, which is what it is. We have computer generated addiction, especially once, well, I've been telling people for decades that we will always be at the advantage of others because we don't study our body. So I used to have debates, hardcore debates with some of my more militant brothers, about freeing the people. I'm like, you can't free the people that are addicted chemically, and like you can rile them up and make them angry, you know what I'm saying? But you can't free the people who have addictions, you know what I'm saying? They're controlled by their addictions. So when the people that we may be trying to free ourselves from know more about how our body works than we do, we will always be subject, you know. And as science learn more about neurochemistry, they're able to create more mechanisms of addiction. So people have addictions to TV shows in a way that um, we downplay because we can all remember back in the days our mom watching, Dynasty or All My Children or whatever the case may be. And, she was addicted to her soap operas, or we've seen that before. But it's not the same as today because the shows are engineered, the sound, the light. There's a lot going on in the TV show today that wasn't going on in TV shows in the past. And so people are living emotionally, vicariously through characters, and whatever happens to that character, those same emotions happen. Those same neurochemical processes are happening in the brain, and it just creates a whole different cascade of, so people are binge watching, and it's why Netflix is such a big company because Netflix they understand this process of keeping people addicted and in front of the TV. And usually associated with binge watching is binge eating, right? People are not moving around because they're sitting and watching episode after episode, and they're eating rapid, quick cook, highly processed, so there's a lot of things that couple together. And the sugary things combined with the salty things also, so there's just a lot of stuff that fasting, from a mental, emotional, spiritual, perspective, because it's still the same thing. You're still like, okay, I'm gonna just eat greens, or I'm not gonna eat this, or like, like your daughter did, I'm just gonna have a water fast, or whatever the case may be. But if the point of view is I'm going to do this for the emotional cleansing, for the emotional support, or for the mind, for the mental, then we also tap other things on to that. A lot of people are running fast, and the fast is done like streamers. Streamers are doing fast now. And so it's crazy to me to watch the fast with, 10,000 people watching you 24 hours a day fast. And I'm like, what, what are we doing right now? The 20-year-old in great health, doing a 72-hour stream live to, like torture themselves for views, um, because of the dopamine addiction and the norepinephrine, as a counterpart to the dopamine release, and, taking people through cascades of dopamine and norepinephrine. Um, so yeah, there's a lot that we can process once we dive deeper into the concept of love in terms of care and longevity, and not necessarily the aspect of love like love making, or carnal lust or attraction, just like care and longevity, and building, and from that perspective. And self-love is the highest form of love that you can have. And if you understand, or you believe in a connection with your ancestors or God or whatever the case may be, that is the highest form of worship that you can show your ancestors, because that's where we get our DNA and our genes from. And we are the middleman to the next generation beyond us. So we take care of that wealth that we got from our ancestors and put it in its best condition, and then pass it on. So, um, so yeah, the self love, I think it's important. I think it's how we prioritize things. Earlier, I was discussing, women having, and not all women, right? But some women, they're into purses, so they have really expensive purses, but they don't invest that kind of time and money maybe into supplements, health, or books. Fellas, we spend the money on maybe a car or our shoes, or but we don't really have the same. We put a lot of time and money into adorning the outside of the body, but we don't put that kind of time and money into adorning and taking care of the inside of the body. So, I think it's self-love that makes us make those decisions, that may prioritize, somebody spending, $80 or $100 at a club on the way out, or on an outfit, versus putting that money into a book, and then spending the time it takes to read the book, or instead of going out, getting supplements or herbs or whatever the case may be. I think these are choices that we make. And I think how we view ourselves, how we view our future, how we, what our, I think all those things play a role in our decision making, because it impacts, you know, where we see value. And I think that right now it's a great time to be alive because we're going to see some changes. RFK just flipped the food pyramid upside down to prioritize, protein and vegetables and things like that over sweets and less nutritious foods. They've passed some bills to whereas medical schools and colleges now have to begin teaching physicians nutrition and not just random nutrition like, hey, here's vitamin A and this and the other, but teaching them nutrition in relationship to disease management and prevention, which is potentially a game changer. I can't wait to see how that unfolds, and that's on top of passing some laws to limit junk food buying with EBT and SNAP and some other stuff. So I mean, it's not a dictatorship, so you can't necessarily force people to eat healthy or exercise. Because now when people go to hospitals, it's not so much emphasis that will be placed on a pill or a knife, but some other options that people can use to keep themselves out of, the emergency room. And I've been talking about that problem for a long time. The emergency room has been a nasty place way before COVID because you have mostly, unqualified doctors running the emergency room. It's just residents and students in the emergency rooms. And the emergency rooms are flooded with, homeless people and people who are in there for things that if they had a little bit of knowledge, they may have been able to prevent or take care of at home. So, I'm looking to see how those things translate there, school lunch programs and just a lot of things. I want to see how that plays out over the next few years. Nothing's gonna happen overnight, but I'm interested to see how that translates because, you know, eventually we'll have nutrition in school, which is one of the big things that, everybody in the holistic space, everybody in the naturopath space, we discussed like, hey, they don't teach us nutrition in school. We never learn nutrition, so it's interesting to see how that's going to be, instituted and how that's going to change the landscape of, health. America's in last place right now, in terms of health. So, all of those things I think are part of, the understanding of self-love, the spending my dollar on a piece of produce or a actual natural juice or just a bottle of water versus getting, a pop or Coca-Cola or Pepsi, making that conscious decision.
So, Dr. Enqi, Dr.
Yes,
Enqi,
sir. Yes, sir.
I want to go around the panel to see if they have question or comment so far. All right.
Yes, sir.
Lynda, how you doing, Lynda? You
Oh,
want
yes, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
you have a question or a comment for Dr. Enqi?
Not really, Dr. Inky, this is so interesting though. And I've never thought about the difference between fasting and cleansing. So I appreciate that. And I'm trying to hear what else you have to say because this is very interesting to me.
Okay. Thanks for attending, Lynda. Brother
Yeah.
Ahi?
Well, before we go to Brother Ahid,
Okay.
just want to add on for Sister Linda. Yeah, I think it's a valuable conversation that even being in the holistic space, I kind of overlooked myself. I assumed a lot of people kind of knew, because a lot of people talk about cleanses and fasting, and I realized over time that people were just using them interchangeably. I did a 10-day fast, or I did a 10-day cleanse, or I did this and that and the other. And I don't think people really knew like the history, like the history of it. So a lot of the cleanses, have more of a recent history where the fasting was mostly just a spiritual, religious, and I think we got away from that. And I don't necessarily think we need to make it like a Muslim thing or a Christian thing or like, something to that extent. But like I said, the mental health, because mental health, mental illness is at an all-time high right now. Mental illness, especially in America, is at an all-time high, and it correlates with our physical health being at an all-time low. And so if we kind of spend some time on the relationship between metabolism and mental health, some stuff will start to clicking because almost every mental illness is associated with metabolic illness. And different metabolic illnesses are associated with higher risk for mental illness because like your mind is, and associated with your brain, and your brain is a large part of your body. Your brain is a gas guzzler. It is you know, by pound, it uses more sugar than any other place in the body. This is why they nickname Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes because of the relationship with metabolism to, your brain health, which then mental health. So, so yeah, it's we gotta, now is the perfect time and the season is just right. I don't know if y'all remember that commercial. It's stuck in my mind. But yeah, this is the time that we need to kind of, focus in on some of those older concepts and bring those back to the forefront because it's like almost like a full circle. Science is validating some ideas that we may have gotten, we may have just moved past, or we may have thought they were outdated, or whatever the case may be. But science is bringing us back in a full circle because, um, and I actually wrote a book on it, but they've done extensive tests showing that exercise and or diet and or exercise is just as, or in some cases, more powerful for treating mental illness than medications are. So, um, so we in a very interesting time period where there's a lot of information available, especially with like AI and technology, developing at the pace it is. But people seem to be like dumber than ever, right? Because so much information is available, we're getting like kind of like numb to it and nobody's taking advantage. There's a lot of books out there, there are a lot of articles, there's a lot of information, studies. People aren't interested really in reading those things and learning new things because it's almost like we don't want the responsibility of having to take on the changes that we may find out are necessary for us to to continue to exist or to thrive even in the world that we're in. So it's almost like ignorance is bliss. We want to stay ignorant so we can stay in the. So but yeah, so fasting is definitely something that we have to get back to, but in a more complete, not just necessarily change what we're eating, but you know, cut down the phone calls, maybe like you can have a wellness retreat, right in your house. You don't have to pay $1,000 for somebody to invite you to a top of a mountain, just to tell you, hey, no cell phones. Like you can do that at home, no cell phones. Boop. Put the cell phone down. You still have some distractions at home, but you can drastically limit distractions if you prioritize it before your and it's something that we should do on a regular basis. Something that we should do regularly, at least every month. We should spend a day or we can, at home, but just in seclusion, just nobody else's thoughts penetrating your mind but your own. Just, sleep a lot of water, bathe, candles, things like that, read, just get back to ourselves.
Great. Thank you. I like that.
Okay. All right, Brother Ahi.
Yeah, I'm with that. How do you how do you deal with this uh without putting it on a spiritual level? Because there's so much discipline, and you gotta. How do you deal with it? I mean, holy. Does spirituality have to be a part of it?
Um, I would say the roots come from spirituality and just acknowledging the roots, I think, is enough because it talks about the purpose. So it's not necessarily, I don't think that you have to add the God concept or religious concept to it or anything like that. But I think just understanding the roots gives us a precursor to go, okay, well, this is not just about, you know, losing 5 pounds or, I'm constipated, so I need to, poop or whatever the case may be. This is for emotional stability. This is for emotional wellness. This is for um, mental clarity. This is for, you know, um, accomplishing goals. A lot of times in theological texts, fasting was about an upcoming goal, and you wanted to fast to be able to be at your best for whatever that was coming up. And even boxers developed a pseudo version of that to where, when they had a big fight coming up, they wouldn't have sex or things like that. Um, those are all a part of those things. And I think that people found benefit in certain practices, even if they didn't fully understand the biochemistry or the neurochemistry behind what was going on. Now that we have, you know, a more advanced point of view where we can see some of the biochemistry, neurochemistry associated with certain practices, or we can watch and see what happens with testosterone levels, for example, if we're not having sex over 3 months, 6 month period of time, or strength levels, or just whatever the case it is. Now we have the advantage of being able to put together more precise, ideas and fully thought through processes for just operating at our best. And the spiritual roots of fasting, adds in the mental part. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, they turn into a drug, whether it's a pill, whether that pill is over the counter, whether that pill is by prescription, whether that pill is on the street, whether they are self-medicating, cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, a lot of these things have emotional components, or whether they just turn into foolishness that's not real, like imaginary chakras or, things that people have imagined up to take the place of actual, science that can really help them. So there's a lot of different things that people are turning to kind of put a band-aid on this hole because we don't really have emotional hygiene practices. We haven't even really prioritized emotional intelligence in society yet. And so because we don't have emotional intelligence prioritized, let alone emotional hygiene, we haven't even really quantified what emotions are. So one of the things that we've done is we have associated, to the best of our knowledge and research, what emotions, physically are, right? And so brain waves, people are really familiar with brain waves. And to me, it's odd that this has escaped the purview of everybody thus far. And for us to kind of be the first people to maybe coin it or put it together. But nerves and neurons are the same type of cells. The only difference between neurons and nerves, I mean, there's specific differences, but there are even specific differences amongst neurons. There are different types of neurons. So, but overall, the only real differences between nerves and neurons is that nerves are a lot bigger than neurons. But other than that, nerves and neurons are the exact same type of cell. So I'm saying that to say it's crazy that, people haven't put together the same level of understanding for electrical activity in the brain as electrical activity in the body, right? We know electrical activity in the brain is put together and understood collectively under the guise of brain waves, right? Which are patterns of neurons firing together. Well, we have patterns of nerves firing together all throughout our body, and we just haven't taken the time to really explore. And I think a part of that is how our science viewed certain things leading up to where we are today. We have a Black's Anatomy course that we teach, and a part of that course is getting clarity on the medical system in terms of like we have a really extensive timeline where we just kind of look at anatomical and medical discoveries in chronological order. Because a lot of times things that we may think are commercial plots or racial plots or whatever the case may be might just be ignorance, right? So when we learn that, in 1765, which is when medical schools started opening in America, they didn't know what a water molecule was. It'll start to give us clarity on the medical system, right? The human body we now know today is made out of water. That means when they opened medical school in 1765, because it's another 50 years before they discover and chronicle that, there are two hydrogen atoms attached to an oxygen atom that makes up water. We don't even know what water is, let alone understand that cells are made out of water and blah, 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 blah. Like, so there are a cascade of things that, just escaped, the medical system. We didn't learn about pigment until very recently, 1960s. 1960s, they start figuring out the relationship of, electricity or electrons and protons and light and pigment and all of these different things. So it's still a relatively new science. And in that pocket is where emotions are because your body has a very wide network of, opsins and globins and, different types of pigment cells that all function in an auxiliary fashion with your nerves and the sensations running through your nerves and the chemistry associating or driving those sensations is what we experience as emotions. And this is the reason why mental health is so, tightly associated to metabolism because metabolism regulates all these things. It's the biochemistry that's underneath all of this activity. So, so yeah, we just got to get to. That was a good question, but yeah, that's I don't. So to answer your question clearly, I do not think that we need a spiritual motive or association to fasting, but I do think understanding the spiritual roots of fasting is important so that we realize the practice of fasting is meant to get the emotional body and the mental intact and to keep it intact and to keep it healthy and to maintain like we have a system of maintenance Public safety alert. We are under emergency snow. Okay. All roads in my city are cut off. Yeah, we're in the middle of a blizzard. But yeah, so it's just important that we understand, I think, that aspect of it so we can take advantage of that. For me, you leave money on the table. If you go through a 2 day fast, 3 day, 1 week, you know, 40 day, if you do any level of fast and, you know, you don't focus in on the emotional part or the mental part, I think that you leave money on the table.
All right. All right. Brother Mshinda, are you there? All right. Let's go to Ernest. Ernest McBride.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting because I could listen to you all day long, like Dr. Sharita and Lynda say.
I appreciate that.
And then I thought I've never really thought about fasting because I know one of my son-in-law, he does a 24-hour fast like every 2 or 3 days, a couple of times a week. And
Hmm.
I could do that, but I never really thought about doing it because my biggest problem, my weight and stuff has always been pretty good. Last 20 years, I've been weighing 183 and a half. When I go to doctor every year, I never have a problem with my weight, but I do eat a lot of junk, a lot of sweets.
Let
But
me tell you something. Let me tell you something that is crazy. Let me tell you something that's crazy. So we all know that our body has a lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is, the system, basically your the house of your immune system, and it's there to keep everything clean and all that kind of stuff, right? Um, it's not until I believe 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, that we discovered, I'm air quoting, we discovered that the brain actually has its own lymphatic system. So, again, there's just a lot of stuff that because we got into this space where we were not supposed to believe anything and we had to know everything. Well, that put us in a dark space because any traditions that we may have had, if we couldn't validate whatever associated with the tradition, then we just put it on the side and said, well, that tradition was, senseless. It wasn't anything to it because woo, 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 woo. Now, as we start to learn more stuff, that's why I'm saying it's taking us back a 300 or maybe 180 degree because we got to turn backwards now and look at some of these things that traditionally were practiced and just passed down to the point where maybe reasoning and the logic and the scientific know-how associated with these things may not have really been, passed down with the tradition because that might have got lost in the mix. But now science is validating some of these things. So, being able to allow it's called the glymphatic system, being able to allow the glymphatic system to drain and get all of the used proteins that wind up in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and the astrocytes and the glial cells to regenerate themselves and all of this kind of stuff that some traditions that we had addressed, but we didn't know the scientific terms and we didn't know this and that. And, we just kind of had simple ideas, but they were still working on things that we needed, even though we didn't know that these were. So we didn't need to know that there was a glymphatic system or a glial cell or whatever the case may be to know that sometimes people have mental health issues, and people to be able to see, okay, well, taking time out from the world, taking time out from worrying about all your responsibilities and others and this and that, taking time out just for yourself, it has a benefit. And so now, fast forward, a few hundred years or whatever, to 2026, now we know, oh, there's a glymphatic system. And the glymphatic system, you get a certain amount of REM sleep and this, that, and the other, and blue light from the social, the phones, and this is all of these things that were kind of covered in taking a full spiritual fast, like just cut out certain foods, cut out certain company, cut out entertainment, like just, and without all of the scientific, T's crossed and I's dotted, we still got the maximum benefit. But because we, maybe our grandparents weren't able to explain it to their children, so our moms and dad weren't able to explain it to us, and we got into this scientific religion, because science has largely become a religion where, now it's like, okay, well, if you can't explain this, then we're not taking this serious, or we're divorcing ourselves from these traditions. And it's just interesting to see that, everything that our parents or grandparents talked to us about, even though they didn't understand the scientific lingo to explain it to us the way we wanted it explained to us, that still did not mean that it wasn't very, very valuable. And so we got to start reinstituting some of those things in our daily lives now.
All right. All right. Excellent. Dr. Sharita?
Greetings.
Greetings.
Peace and
Peace.
love, family.
Peace and
Peace.
love.
I'm just listening. I just, I need the pep talk. This is like a pep talk for me. So I appreciate your time and your sharing. And I'm just listening.
All right.
Definitely.
Thanks for attending. Professor Rahh?
So wait, I got a question for Dr. Sharita. Are you getting ready to jump on some sort of fast or cleanse or something?
Okay, since we're based in Compton, let me just keep it real.
I'm from the Bronx.
We got this
Talk
thing.
straight. Yeah.
We got this thing. Who heals the healer, right?
Woo!
So
Talk heavy. Yeah.
yeah. So just being real about being in this thing for a long time and knowing so many different healers and how
Not taking care of
even though
yourself.
we
Yeah.
know so much, I was telling somebody today we have our own struggles as well. So when I'm talking to you,
Big
I'm
time.
talking to we. I'm talking to me and you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's
And you strumming my pain with his
right.
fingers.
So
For
it's a
real.
thing of detoxing and then not retoxing.
Facts.
Detoxing and then not retoxing. You know what I'm saying? Once
Yeah.
it's over with. So that's been my yo-yo personally. And then just coming, I found that I'm a stress eater now. So when I come to the States, it's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Where in Ghana, I'm probably doing one meal a day and then a lot of juices, coconut water, stuff like that. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's I think for me, what I'm finding a lot is the discipline. And I'm feeling like with the discipline, it's really about obedience. If you're being more obedient, then it might be easier for you to be more disciplined. But both of them are a challenge,
I have a
especially in
question.
times when you're dealing with a lot of responsibility and stress, things like that.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Have you ever tried to go high dose vitamin D combined with vitamin K?
No, because when I'm
Okay.
in Ghana, I'm in the sun a lot.
No. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That might work out for you
yeah,
because, and I'm not saying to do that in Ghana. I'm only saying
right. To do it
here.
here to supplement what I'm not getting over there. I
Yes,
got you.
because
Yeah,
that might some people, especially people that are used to being in super, sunny places, because the
yeah.
sun does things for you that we
It
still
sure
haven't
does.
even, like we know some things the sun does for us, but there are things that we'll continue to find out that the
Well,
sun
it
does for
definitely it
us.
regenerates for sure. Whatever
Yes.
it's doing is regenerating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
but even with your mind and your emotions and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's people are having real, positive, results with the high dose vitamin D combined with the
Mm-hmm.
vitamin K,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a trigger. It sends your body the message that, you're getting that love from our home star, even when you're not. So that might definitely
Ooh, well, that's a serious pill. I'll try it.
yeah, that might help out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. But yeah, thanks for the sharing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Professor Rahh,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
clearly.
Yeah. First, I want to say, Sante Sana, thank you, Dr. Enqi, for coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge about nutrition, about fasting, cleansing, and the whole concept of trying to be healthy so you can have longevity, not just in living longer, but having a healthy life. And that's what I hear you saying. Uh, Back in 19 early 70s, um, Dr. Naim Akbar said we were electronically kidnapped by television. That was before social media.
Yeah.
Uh, Angela Davis said that we need to go on a TV fast
Wow.
for years. I want to ask you, are there foods that could give you vitamin D? And I know they talk about milk does, but vitamin D and vitamin K and things of this nature. Are there foods that do that?
Um,
Get those? Can you get those nutrients from foods? Nuts,
absolutely.
berries.
Absolutely. Vitamin K, you can get vitamin K. Vitamin K is something that is still kind of debated because you get vitamin K from green vegetables, but then you need your microbiome to kind of convert that into the active vitamin K that your body needs. So, people promoting, animals, meat and stuff like that for vitamin K. But algae is a really good source of active vitamin K. So things like spirulina, which is a bacteria and not necessarily a classical algae, but spirulina is good for vitamin K. Um, when it comes to vitamin D, only lichen is the only real high grade food source, and it's not even really a food. Nobody eats lichen. um, but yeah, so vitamin D you need to supplement, but the everything else pretty much you can get from food. If you eat a lot of meat though, typically you borrow vitamin D from whatever animal you're eating. So you get, only vegans usually have to worry about vitamin D. If you eat a lot of meat, red meat anyway. But see, people are getting away from red meat, which is the weird thing. The internet. We go on the internet and we search things and we don't realize that there is zero context when we search something. So, like, say for instance, somebody tells me that olive oil is amazing for health. And then I go on the internet and I type into Google health benefits of olive oil, right? So when I type in health benefits of olive oil, what happens is it doesn't tell me any drawbacks because I didn't ask for any drawbacks. I just asked for health benefits. So they tell me health benefits. It also doesn't tell me preparation. So somebody might say olive oil is amazingly healthy, and then I'll go out and buy a $20 bottle of olive oil and come home and say maybe I want to fry French fries or fried chicken in my olive oil because this is a healthy oil. Well, there was no context in my Google search. If there was context, they would have told me that I lose all of the health benefits when the olive oil goes above a certain temperature. In fact, the olive oil becomes rancid, right? So there's no context when we search up stuff on the internet. So I'm just saying that to say, even with like milk, milk doesn't intrinsically have the vitamin D. It's a form of vitamin D2 from fungus that's added to milk traditionally. So this is why they had to all of those milk ads that, I grew up on, and I'm sure you guys remember, milk does the body good and all that stuff with the white top lip and all that. They were forced to stop running those ads because they weren't true. One of the most successful ad campaigns in American history. They was forced to stop that because those ads were not entirely accurate. So yeah, you can get supplements for vitamin D, which is the best route to go, a good vegan D3. And I only say a vegan D3 because that gives you the highest quality um, in terms of buying a supplement. Otherwise, you might get like sheep hair or any kind of thing that they process and make the supplement out of. But a good vegan D3, 5,000 IU is always the best option for that. Um, And then, I mean, nothing beats the sun. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no way around beating the sun. But because our body is, so one of the things I discuss in the new book is called the Monk Manual. One of the things I talk about is frequency, and frequency in the scientific sense, not like in the abstract sense. Um, we are supposed to absorb. We're supposed to be in a constant relationship with our home star, right? Traditionally, when we use the term communication, we are talking usually about exchanging words. But communication is not really about exchanging words. That's just a form of communication. But exchanging energy is communication. So we're technically supposed to be locked into a conversation with our home star. And our biochemistry is largely regulated on this conversation. And that's one of the big crazy things that we're missing. So the technical term of vitamin D is cholecalciferol, one word, cholecalciferol. And that word is like a compound word based on what vitamin D regulates in your body. So the first part, CHOLE, is short for cholesterol because vitamin D regulates your cholesterol. The second part is calcia, which is short for calcium because vitamin D regulates your calcium levels. And the third part is ferrol because vitamin D regulates the iron in your body. So the sun regulates your cholesterol, your calcium, and your iron. Now, you can extrapolate those further because cholesterol is your hormone system. Cholesterol translates into all of your various hormones. Calcium is the thing that turns hormones off and on. Not to mention your kidneys and your liver. Heavily, associated with calcium fluctuations. Um, and then your parathyroid glands also. But then also your iron has everything to do with your metabolism. Iron largely regulates your metabolism through oxygen. Oxygen is the thing that breaks food down at the end of the day, because you go through beta oxidation or the Krebs cycle, and you have to have oxygen there to turn the glucose into CO2 or the residue into CO2. So when we start to consume food faster than we're getting in oxygen, our respiratory system and our metabolism uncouple, and we have either obesity or diabetes creep in. Or if they already are there, then they just get worse and worse over time. So vitamin D plays a big role in all things to do with our respiratory system, our metabolism, and our hormone system. So
Okay.
yeah, we got to stay in that, and that's again, that's that relationship with our home star. So we really got to try to get that relationship right. You know what I'm saying? There's supplements that we can take as band-aids, but we need to figure that out.
So, how long you recommend a fast?
It just depends on the type of fast. I'm not a fan of dry fast, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of water fast. But I think juice fasting is good, but I think it's like, muscle. You got to build up to it. So if you haven't done a juice fast, 1 day is good, 2 days is good, 3 days is good, just as long as you can do it. Maybe even just, start by replacing a meal. If you eat 2, 3 meals a day, maybe you just replace one meal with a juice, and do that for a little while, and then you replace 2 meals with a juice. Maybe you replace your daytime eating, and then you still have your dinner, and then you see how long you can do that until you good, and then you can do a whole day of just juicing and build up to it. But yeah, that's what I think is the
But,
idea.
but okay, like you said, a lot of stuff came from spiritual things, like Elijah Muhammad said
Hmm.
when he wrote his book, Eat to Live, Not
He was
Live.
Elijah Muhammad. A lot of people don't give him credit. Elijah Muhammad was the founder of what we have today in terms of intermittent fasting. So a lot of people run around talking about intermittent fasting, but Elijah Muhammad is largely the founder of intermittent fasting.
Yeah, well, a lot of Muslims go through Ramadan where they don't have sex or food all day until the night. Well, I'm getting back to this.
Yeah,
The,
but even the Ramadan, let me just say this real quick while you mentioned it. The Ramadan has been I mean, Ramadan is insane right now. The way people do Ramadan is crazy. They get almost no benefit from Ramadan because people just literally look at it from a standpoint of, okay, I'm not going to eat throughout the daytime. So, whether it's 6 in the morning till 6 at night, but then they're binging overnight. I got a whole bunch of Muslims I know. They wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to pack on, all they could eat before the sun comes up. Like it's crazy. And people wind up creating more problems than they solve with the Ramadan.
yeah, I understand that, but I was just coming up with, the different historical perspectives of
Yeah,
fast,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and we are inundated with various methodologies to cleanse and to fast, from Dr. Seavey to Dr. Gauss to uh, Dick Gregory to the Bohemian diet, all these different things. And sometimes, if you don't study, I mean, I remember Dr. Gauss would tell you to drink, take CKLs along with olive oil to cleanse. And then other individuals have other methodologies of cleansing. And then there are different ways you fast, like you said, water fast, juice fast. Then there are people say, well, I fast last night because I didn't eat till breakfast. And that's breaking fast. And, so they, I mean, the people sometimes get get information from different sources, and sometimes they conflict with other sources. And so when we say there's a difference between fasting and cleansing, well, one role of a long-term fast is to cleanse, if I'm not mistaken. Especially if you're talking about a week or 2 week fast, or a month fast or whatever, on juice or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm trying to get to is, it's very difficult for a lot of people who are addicted to sugar and salt, because that's the number one drug in the world, sugar and salt. They both white, and you understand, they both are bleached, and they got all kind of chemicals in them. Then there are people that turn to sea salt, that turn to some organic salt,
Foolishness.
but it's still salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we talk about health, there are people that have never fasted, never curbed their diet, never ate nutrition, and they outlived the people that did do it and lived a healthy life. And so it's very confusing especially in the South, where people grew their own food, and they start cooking in the morning dinner for that evening. And in certain parts of the South, or Southern hospitality, when people visit you, you say, "Have you ate yet?" Before you say hello. And it creates an enormous amount of confusion. What I'm trying to find out is, how do you research to get clarity on, or is it what works for you, or is it there's a certain formula that works for everybody?
Great question. So I think the thing that works for everybody is the thing that nobody really is interested in. And that is the actual study of the anatomy and the biochemistry and the neurochemistry, and making that a thing that we do regularly. I think if the study of our bodies replaced, or not replaced, but shared some time with the study of Allah or Buddha or Jesus or some of these other things, we would be in a much better place. And that's the reason why I'm not really a fan per se of a dry fast or a water fast, right? Even though I know they do have their benefits in the very short term. Your body has daily requirements. And most of the people today are deficient in 5, 10, 20 different particular nutrients. And those deficiencies create certain symptoms. And when we feel those things, the people, those of us that have natural inclinations, we immediately may go, oh, okay, I heard about some cleanses, or I heard about somebody doing some fast. Let me jump on one of those. And when you do that, you make the deficiency you have worse, because you don't go, I should provide my body with dense, high amounts of nutrition first. You go, I should stop providing my body with anything. So my thing is always getting the body all of the nutrition and cutting out all of the excess, cutting out the processed stuff, cutting out the excess protein, the low quality protein, cutting out the excess fats, cutting out the processed fats, processed sugars, cutting out all the extra salts and oils, and just get the body the nutrition that it needs and stop right there, right? So sometimes you can juice or use your blender, or you can go on. Earlier, brother was saying he went on a 8 week raw, raw food fast. So there are a couple of different ways to approach getting in just high levels of nutrition and cutting out all of. It starts there, learning how your body works and what your body needs for all of the specific things that make a body run to run. Then from there, you would tack on, you know, who you are personally, right? Because what a body needs is general. But LeBron James, if LeBron James had the same diet as, say, a daycare teacher, one of them would be severely out of balance, the daycare teacher or LeBron James, because the way the daycare teacher runs their body is drastically different than the way LeBron runs his. And even with LeBron being an athlete, he's still got to eat differently than a linebacker has to eat. And the linebacker has to eat, differently than maybe say a 10th grader in high school or whatever the case may be. So diet and nutrition is while we're all human, so there are some basic needs that we all need, but the way we run our body throughout the day and the way our body looks, the size of our body, our condition, are we on medication? Aren't we on medication? Our genetics, all of those things play a role in personalizing what it is that we need every day. But there are definitely some simple practices that everybody could. We try to rock a 13 and 7 rule. And the 13 and 7 rule is we try to get all of our eating done in a 7-hour window. And then we try to give our body a 13-hour window with no food. And then, some people say, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't add up to 24. There's a few extra hours left over. Exactly. Because that few extra hours is for when life is lifing. So, so you have a flexibility to be able to, to switch it up from day to day when your demands, when your life demands that you do something different. But just in general, we try to give our body a 13-hour window every single day where we're not eating. You know what I'm saying? Regardless to what type of diet you're on, plants, animals, Swiss rolls, cigarettes, weed, whatever you do throughout the day, we try to give your body a 13-hour window where it's doing nothing. So that prioritizes your sleep, and it guarantees that when you go to sleep, you get a decent level of autophagy in, which is where your body starts to kind of recycle some stuff and clear up some waste and all of those things. So yeah, there's some stuff that goes in both pockets. There's some stuff that goes in the general practice because we're all humans, but then there's a lot more stuff that we just got to learn about ourselves, which is the thing we don't want to do. We all want to
Well,
just get the package and I let me not say all, but most of us, we don't want to, we just want the package. Like, show me what supplements I should get, or what fast is, what program or pill or drink or whatever the case may be. So we get into these TikTok things now, or back before that, Oprah and Beyonce said to drink red pepper and honey, and like it's not, those aren't real things.
Dr. Enqi,
Yeah.
I have a comment or some comments.
Yes, sir.
I was the one that told you that I did an 8 week full body cleanse.
I remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah. At the beginning of the show.
And I did this with a herbalist, uh, and he
Jehudi?
introduced he introduced me to another herbalist.
Jehudi Ma'ara?
No, this is it was we call him Dr. Bernard.
Oh, okay.
He's a West Coast guy, but now he's not on the West Coast. Miss Sophia is closely associated with him. Also, I was closely associated with him. Dr. Sharita knows him. He he, he was around Sabry, Dr. Goss, and a lot of the pioneering type guys. So he introduced me to another herbalist named Obalaji, and Obalaji it was around the one of those pioneer type fellas too. And so he gave me some herbal information, like some basics, what the major organs and what vitamins and herbs, you know, that goes along with those organs. And so when he gave it to me, I asked him, I said, okay, so what are the different dosages that I take to, accommodate whatever I want to accommodate? He said, I can't tell you that. He said that you have to,
Figure it out.
basically experiment. You talk about self-love. So you got to with self-care, you have to, like you said, you have to study. So I had to take these herbs and do different things with them just to see how it fit me. And I know I had a high number PSA for the prostate.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And I took the herbs and I did some form of cleansing.
Got that number down.
And the numbers went right down. And then also, I was looking for an effective immune herb. And so I was dibbling and dabbling with different herbs for the immune system. And I finally got to a combination that was tailored for me. And it's been working tremendously for, I would say, past 6-7 years. So even probably longer than that. But like you said,
what's the combination?
Echinacea, vitamin C, rose hips, and golden seal. Works perfect for me.
Wait, you said vitamin C and rose hips?
Vitamin C and rose hips.
That's interesting.
Which is basically almost the same, but for some reason, those
it's not though.
Huh?
It's not. That's interesting. I'm just I'm just saying it's interesting because I was having a conversation either earlier today or yesterday where I was explaining to somebody that sometimes these vitamins are complexes. I was talking about vitamin E because there's 8 different types of vitamin E, and your body works best when you get all of them in. And that vitamin C, as we know it, that we go buy it in the store, is not really complete vitamin C.
Well, I actually get the powder.
But even still, you're getting a greater benefit from the rose hips because the rose hips provides the full spectrum of vitamin C, where a lot of times the pills and the powders may just focus on like absorbic acid and that portion of it. When you go with like a camel or rose hips, you're getting the full, it's more potent that way.
So yeah, so that helped me, and so I stuck with it after doing my self study because I tried a combination of herbs and I added some cayenne pepper. Ooh, that put me on fire, but so that worked for me. So I kind of see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. And what's crazy is for a long time, people didn't really understand. Like it was kind of like just like mom and pop, vitamin C for the immune system. But now we know the reason why vitamin C is so important for the immune system is because most of your immune system comes from your bones. Most of your immune system comes from your bone marrow. And it's vitamin C, along with a few other players, that's responsible for initiating building up the bones. And the more dense your bones, the stronger the immune system. So there wasn't necessarily a direct connection to whereas you had doctors in a certain time period. They'd be like, "Oh, that's an old wives' tale. Vitamin C is not for your immune system," because it wasn't like a direct. But vitamin C builds the bones along with, lysine and, so you got to build the bone, you need proline and hydroxyproline and those things, but it's lysine and vitamin C along with copper that initiate the synthesis of bone. And out of the bones is where all of our, like immune factors and white blood cells and B cells and T cells and all that stuff comes from. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Vitamin C is incredibly important for immune function.
Okay. Sister Sophia?
Oh yeah, that was really powerful. And I concur and just wanted to add regarding like how our mind affects our self-love. And like Dr. Enqi said, the brain uses about 20% of the glucose from the food that we eat. um, Even though it's only 2% of the body weight, which is about 3 pounds.
Crazy.
So yes, so I just wanted to give you the that perspective on how much energy that our brain uses. um, and the other thing, you're talking about the lymphatic system, so in 2012, Dr. Mike Nettergaard from University of Rochester Medical Center was the first to describe the lymphatic system. And that how that happens is you need REM sleep. So when you need deep sleep. So what happens is your brain cells, mainly the glia cells, they shrink up to 60% to allow the cerebral spinal fluid to flow and remove the waste out of the brain. That's how it's cleansed. So it's important to understand how important sleep is and deep sleep is. So you want to be able to get like actually 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and no more than that, because it's more beneficial the 7 hours to 8 hours as an adult. Of course, when you're a child, you need more hours, but that's how you get the benefits of the getting the lymphatic system to work, spinal fluid to remove that waste out of the brain. So that, yeah, that was initially, that's pretty recent, 2012, from, university. She was the lead scientist, but, with her team, that's when they introduced that to us. And so also you mentioned the power of thinking. I wanted to just give two examples of how important it is to also have positive thinking about who you are. Your perception of who you are is who you become. So if you think we're all created by the same creator and we're all equal, you think that way, and you're here because you're meant to be here, because you're part of a puzzle, and your part is just as important as any other piece, because the whole world can't function cohesively without all its parts working together. I mean, okay, so the power of thinking, I wanted to give two examples. Like University of California in Los Angeles honored uh, Norman Cousins. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but in 1964, he was diagnosed with a disease called ankylosing spondylitis. And so, yeah, spondylitis. And So basically, the bones fuse your vertebrae, your spine, the bones fuse together actually, and how it happens according to doctors Guyton and Hall, uh, they stated that when your body lacks the nucleotide pyrophosphatase phosphodi- phosphodiesterase 1, which is NPP1, and also the ankylosis protein, ANK. It causes a decrease in extracellular pyrophosphate and then excessive calcification of the bone, such as the bone spurs, or even calcification of other tissues, such as tendons and ligaments of the spine happens. And this is how this form of arthritis occurs, called ankylosing, or losing, LOSING, spondylitis. So that happens. And so what he decided to laugh. He started reading books that are funny, reading jokes that are funny, and watching funny shows as well, and movies. And he found out that when he did that for like 10 minutes of deep belly laughter, he was able to get 3 hours of no pain, or 3 hours of no pain. Okay, so are you?
Yeah, that's incredible because
Yeah.
that stimulates interleukins, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Some things that we didn't really know, we didn't have a scientific understanding of. Like now we know when you get a real gut buster, like not a fake laugh, but a real, natural, spontaneous laugh, your body is producing a lot of chemical. There's a whole chemistry associated with that that's highly beneficial, and even fights against cancer and a wide variety of things. Sure.
Yeah, so that happened like in 1964, the diagnosis, and then like he became a professor at University of California, and they actually now have a Norman Cousin Center for Psychoneuroimmunology. So they actually honor him for sharing his research and study and what he did for himself. The other example I'm going to give you is regarding Dr. Ellen Langer.
Mm.
And I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but she earned her PhD from Yale University in social and clinical psychology, and then she joined Harvard in 1977, became the first woman to be tenured at Harvard University. And what happened with her story, it started, this article published at University of Chicago on September 7th, 2023. Dr. Langer's mother, when she was 56 years old, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which metastasized and spread to her pancreas. And then all of a sudden she had spontaneous remission, meaning her cancer was gone. And then like the doctors were mystified and shocked. And then so this led to her, decades of research proving that the mind is able to definitely help heal the the mind is able to heal itself to some degree. It just depends actually on your mindset. So So anyways, I was getting a text. That's why I forgive me for the pause. But so her work on mind body connection, mindfulness, and positive perception of life showed that, caring also, it's not just about caring for yourself, but also caring for those around you or things around you, improved overall health and the ability to, live longer. Literally, it literally helps a person live longer, heal faster. So one of the studies that she did was like a house plant study where in a nursing home where the elder people, one group was told to take care of plants while the other group was told, that the staff was going to take care of the plants. So those who took care of the plants, the elderly people who took care of the plants, showed improved happiness. They were more engaged with each other and significantly lived longer compared to the group that was not responsible for taking care of the plants. So if you have those around you who are not feeling well, or even children, you want to get them to stay engaged in doing things for others or being responsible, because it also, allows the mind to um, concentrate on positive things and not have idle mind. And as we know, Dr. King's birthday is coming up on the 15th, and he said that justice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And it's one of my favorite quotes, because we all together have to learn to like share this type of information as you have given us, Mr. Rashaki Maskani. So appreciate the ability for all of us to share the information, to be able to help each other and help those around us, to be able to not only help ourselves in the process, but also uplift humanity overall in the long run. So there are many, many, many examples of those who have. There are many case studies. If you search psychoneural immunology, there are a lot of cases where people have improved or healed themselves, reversed diseases. Just, you still have to, try to eat healthy and things like that, but it does make a huge difference in how you think about yourself, your perception in your life, and perception on your role in society, in our world. If you're here, you're meant to be here. If you're here, you're part of that puzzle. You're supposed to be here so you can play your part to make our world a better place. So, and not to mention, historically, if you look at old literature, ancient literature, uh, text, Bible or other texts, it's all about not only loving yourself, also loving those around you, which really also helps your well-being.
Don't they say that if you love yourself, gives you the ability to love others?
That's a fact. That's where it stems from.
Completely.
You can't do anything without that, without that center. Um, Family, I am sorry to be the one that has to go first this week, but I do got to get out of here because pardon my language, but all hell is breaking loose around me. We got this blizzard and this everything is going on crazy right now because they just shut down the city. So I gotta kind of figure out
Where are you located again?
I'm outside. I'm in like a suburb of Detroit.
Okay. Oh, you
So
out there with Ahi. Ahi.
yeah, yeah.
Dr. Enqi's out there with you.
Yeah, Dr. Ahi is out here in Detroit.
He is out there, yeah.
Oh yeah. So we probably even know the same people. But yeah, so
Well, prayers
Yeah,
out
it's
to
happening.
you. Prayers out to you. And we are
definitely, and I appreciate the opportunity. Um, I can't get on, enough, you know what I'm saying? But I'm sure, Sister Sophia will set up our next class and we'll be able to get into some of that springtime warming up discussion.
All right.
So,
Well, you
so
be safe out there, Dr. Enqi, and
yes,
appreciate
sir.
you always uh, being with us to share this great information.
Definitely. Thank you guys.
Brother
thank you,
Ahid,
And
Doc. Thank
yes,
you.
yes, sir.
you hook up with
He
Dr.
right. We
Enqi?
catching it, buddy. Yeah, he's right.
Okay, well, you be safe too. So,
Okay, we see you next week.
okay, next week we have on the show Wednesday, we have a 19-year-old coming on. I think she's 19, either 18 or 19. And her name is Hydea. And her mom was a guest with us on the 20. Sonia, Miss Sonia was on there the 24th of December. So her daughter's coming on, and her topic is respect with a question mark. Is it earned or entitled? So that's going to be. We have the youth on next Wednesday. Professor Rahh, anybody?
I'm trying to get Black Lives Matter. I'll let you know tomorrow.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, good folks. Thanks, Miss Sophia, Mshinda, Sister Lynda, Brother Ernest. Thanks a lot. Each one teach one in Conscious Corner. We will see everybody
Wow,
next to.
it's an honor. Thank you so much for an amazing, incredible show.
Thank you.